So this is the steam engine we are going to animate, and we are going to animate some parts here. I will select the cylinder, then press H to hide it. Inside here we see the piston and also a couple of O-rings. They will be animated together with this piston rod and this connecting rod together with this crank and the shaft and the flywheel. And on the other side here, if I now select the cover and press H to hide it, inside we see a sliding valve and a nut and a spindle, this yoke and this eccentric strap rod, and down here we have the eccentric strap. All these parts will be animated. So I will press Alt H to bring the hidden parts back, like so. And we are going to use bones to make all these parts move. And of course there are several ways to animate in Blender, but in this case we are going to use bones to make the parts move. So, but before we start animating or do anything with the engine, we are going to save this scene. So I come up here to File, Save As, and here I click the plus sign so that we have Steam Engine 1 and click Save As. So now we are going to work with the Steam Engine 1, a copy of the original scene, so that we save the original scene so it will be untouched. So to start, we will select this cylinder and press H to hide it. Inside here we have this piston and the O-rings. So now we are going to parent some parts together, make a group of them, and there will be 3 groups we are going to make. So first of all I will select, zoom in a bit, by pressing the Control key and the middle mouse button. I zoom. I select this O-ring and shift select the other one and shift select the piston. When they are selected I press Control P, and that will bring up this menu, Parent to. I will parent them to Object. That means the O-rings are now parented to the piston. So while they are selected, I press Shift and left click on the piston rod so that all these 3 parts will now be parented to the piston rod. So I press Control P, Parent to Object. Then I come over here. While these are selected, I press Shift and left click the crosshead. So when the crosshead is selected last, I press Control P and Parent to Object. That means now if I select the crosshead and press G to move, all these parts will now move together with the crosshead. And at the end, this crosshead will be the main object in this group. So therefore I deselect now and then select this locking pin and shift select the crosshead so that the locking pin will be parented to the crosshead. Press Ctrl P and parent to object. Then we have some additional objects or parts that will be parented to the crosshead. That's this crosshead pin, the sliders. So I select this crosshead pin, shift select this slider and this one, shift select, and the nut here on this side, and then I shift select the crosshead, then Control P, parent to object. So that means now that if I deselect and select the crosshead and press G, we see that all these objects will now move together with the crosshead. So this is the first group. So next group will be this connecting rod together with a couple of bushings. So inside here we will find a bushing. You see it here? If I now left click this bushing here, it will be selected, then shift left click the connecting rod, then Control P to parent the bushing to the connecting rod, so parent to object. Then we come up here on to the other side. Here we have another bushing, so we click on the bushing to select it, and then left click, shift left click the connecting rod to select it, and then Control P to parent that bushing to the connecting rod, parent to object. So now if I select this connecting rod and press G, the bushings will now follow or move together with the connecting rod. So that's the second group. And the next group will be the crank together with some parts. So for instance, this crank pin will be parented to the crank, so I select the crank pin and shift select the crank, Control P, parent to object. Then I select the locking pin here and shift select the shaft, Control P, parent to object. And while they are selected, I press shift and left click the crank and Control P, parent to object. Then I move the camera to this side, deselect, select the flywheel, shift and left click the shaft, then Control P, parent to object, so that the flywheel will be parented to the shaft. And then I select the locking pin and shift select the flywheel, Control P, and parent to object. So now if I select the crank and press G, all these parts will now move together with the crank. So this is the third group. So now we have three groups, and we are going to animate these three groups now. And we will do that in the next video.